You're listening to the Geek Watch Podcast, episode 91. Goodbye, Gahan Wilson.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 91 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
Well, we've seen, they've been teasing it for a while, but BBC has finally released their new Doctor Who trailer.
Yay, Doctor Who 2020.
Yep, there's a little bit of online stuff I wanted to talk about, just some speculation of things, and of course, we're going to talk about The Walking Dead, the mid-season finale. But before we get to that, we do have an in memorial. This one's going to be a tough one for me personally. Gahan Wilson, macabre cartoonist, passed away November 21st at 89. He'd been sick for a while. He'd been suffering from dementia, and so I mean it's not unexpected. We've been preparing for it for a while, but Gahan Wilson. I've been able to meet him several times, and I'd known about him long before I'd actually known him as a person. I saw a lot of his illustrations and comics in Playboy magazine when I was younger. You would always run into those. And the first time I met him was at Nikon, and I purchased a copy of a collection of his called Gravedigger's Party, and I told him that I loved his illustrations. I couldn't believe I was actually meeting this guy. I remember the first comic, one panel I ever saw. There was no text to it, but it was just a vampire leaning over a woman lying in her bed, and he had a salt shaker, and he was salting her neck.
Aww.
That the first one I remember. And I told him that his cartoons were the main reason why I read Playboy magazine, to which he looked up at me and he said, "You lying bastard." I said, "I swear on my mother's grave." Now, my mom's not dead. She wasn't dead at the time. She still isn't. And I said, well, she doesn't have a grave right now, but, we all die one day, and eventually she'll have a grave, and if I'm still around, I'll swear on it. So, and that was the beginning of a wonderful relationship and friendship with him. And, of course, he signed my copy of the book, and he did an illustration of me standing in my mother's grave.
Aww.
So, my mom, I showed that to her, and she really hates that thing.
Yeah, I imagine.
But, he was, good Lord, he did stuff for Playboy, Collier's, National Geographic, or National Lampoon, I should say. The New Yorker, I think he had some stuff in there. Mm-hmm. He designed the first World Fantasy Award. He designed the bust that became the award. He was a writer as well as an artist. And I can say on a personal level, he was just a great guy to talk to. He was, as I said, he was a lot of fun. He had a great sense of humor, if not morbid. He started his life in a weird way. When he was born, his mother had been given anesthetic that had rendered the newborn Gahan Wilson to such a comatose state, they thought he had died.
Oh, wow. And
they were getting ready to, he made the comment, he's like, they almost put me in a box. Oh. And so, but they found out, oh no, he's still living. So
what year would he have been born then?
He was 80. He's 89. So it was the late 1930s, I believe, when he was born. So
wow, that was like the very, very earliest of really incubating babies, and
right.
Really giving hope for
right.
premature babies and tiny babies, and keeping them warm in those little boxes. Yeah. And they used to have them in storefronts. And, you could actually, like viewing puppies in a window, you could look at premature babies through the window.
Oh, yeah. And I believe one title of one of his books, it was Born Dead and Still Kicking or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that was Gahan Wilson all around. But, like I said, last few years, things have been, difficult for him. Dementia, Alzheimer's, it's rough.
Right.
And it's a shame that he's gone. I'm definitely gonna miss him for sure. But yeah, he passed away on November 21st at the age of 89. So now let's talk a little bit of Doctor Who, because they've been teasing us on Twitter and on Facebook and said, watch this space. And then finally they show us a teaser trailer for the new season of Doctor Who, which we've both seen. And so what did you think, your first impressions?
It's definitely is doing exactly, teasing you enough and enticing you enough to say, remember why you love this. And like, oh, yes, it's been so long, but I do remember, I always knew. But then, I get this, and we've seen, seeing some old villains and the doctor, just asking, where am I? It's very, very classic Who, but, still something new, something different. And Stephen Fry showed up. And how exciting is that? And realizing, oh, you know what? That's a Brit that I haven't seen on there.
Yes, for sure.
About time him and Hugh Laurie need to, it's about time. Like, yeah, where are you, Dr. House?
There you go, Dr.
Of course, I wouldn't mind him being the master, but, that's a whole other...
Oh, that's... Wow, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that would be...
His master against Capaldi's doctor would have been just beautiful.
Although I do have to say that without going into any spoilers in case somebody's not seen Capaldi's series of Doctor Who, which not saying anybody in my near vicinity has not yet, but it may be possible that somebody close by hasn't yet. But I think that their version of the Master was pretty interesting.
I will admit it is me. I have not seen Capaldi's Who. However, I have an aunt who has seen Capaldi's Who, Aunt Tanya, if you're listening, who cosplays Missy. So I do know about Missy and
Michelle Gomez. Oh,
yes,
she was
the evil anti Mary Poppins.
Oh yes,
and of course that brought up the questions of, hey, is Mary Poppins a Time Lord? She has a bag that's bigger on the inside.
Exactly.
She never seems to age. Yeah.
Well, one thing I can definitely tell from the trailers, they have lifted the embargo on the old school Doctor Who monsters, because we're getting the Jadoon. We're getting the Cybermen. Yes. We saw that in the trailer. And then we saw something, you only saw a bit of it, but you saw something that looked like Arachnos, except she had a dark skin instead of red skin, and you do see something that looks like a scorpion chasing after them.
Yes, and the scorpion is... Well, in Earth terms, forgive me for all of you alien biologists out there, a scorpion is an arachnid.
Right.
So it's not impossible that they may have come from the same planet, the same system.
Yes, they might be. They might be a sister race for sure. So I mean, that's certainly a possibility. And there was a hint that something big is going to happen. One thing that in the trailer that made me go was something broke into the TARDIS.
Yeah. Kind of looked like Guyver.
Yeah, it did. It did kind of look like Guyver. And I wonder about that, for them to put it in the trailer, because, of course, we know that to actually break into there have been beings that have been able to break into the TARDIS, but they've all been godlike beings. No one's ever pulled that off in New Who, but, of course, the Guardians, the white and black Guardian, was able to do it, and also Sutek, the god of death, he was able to basically hijack the TARDIS. But they were basically gods for all intents and purposes. So kind of wonder what that's what's up. I am definitely, I am looking forward to, obviously, to new Doctor Who. The new episodes will begin January the 1st, because that's my birthday, and of course they're going to capitulate to that.
Happy birthday, Brian.
Yeah, of course, they're going to capitulate to that. They're like, well, we could have done it back in December, but no, Brian's birthday is January the 1st. That's the kind of pull that I have.
Right, at the BBC. You called them up and...
Exactly. Well, I don't have to call them up. They just take care of business, right? So there was some rumors that we might get a surprise Christmas episode. We'll see how that goes. But you know how rumors are. Take it with a grain of salt. But... I'm definitely hoping that we see the Doctor challenged more this next season, because I think we talked about this when we did our wrap-up of last season, is that I didn't really feel like the Doctor was challenged at all. I felt like things were a little bit easier, but then again, I've always said that the first season with a new Doctor is always going to be the shakiest. Absolutely. Because they've got to write to that actor, and they're still trying to figure all that out. And I definitely hope that we get to see Jodie Whittaker expand her role as the Doctor. I really hope that we get to see more of her character's darker side. We haven't had a chance to see that. We've seen the light side of the Doctor. We haven't seen, of course, the dark side, and
that ruthless side that the
oncoming
storm, and,
right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we certainly got that in spades with Peter Capaldi, but I mean, we got to see those two sides. I think that's what's fascinating about the Doctor as a character, and to see how Jodie Whittaker is able to bring out some of the more darker aspects of that character. I'm looking forward to. I hope we certainly get a chance to see it. And like I said, now that they're starting to dip back into the old canon, I think this season's going to feel more like the Doctor Who that we're used to, and it's going to allow Jodie to play in that sandbox, which I'm really looking forward to. So, right. I had to mention this to you. I just saw this online, and I had to get your opinion on this. I wanted to bring this up because there had been all these rumors, and they sounded like rumors, but apparently there was an article in Variety, and they confirmed it, that Warner Brothers did, in fact, talk to Michael B. Jordan about playing Superman.
Oh, way to go.
So, yeah. So, no, that wasn't...
I've seen, fan art of him in the costume and everything, yeah.
So apparently, that was 100% true. They did talk to him about playing Superman, and he said that they interviewed Michael B. Jordan, and he said that he didn't commit to it because he wasn't sure what their timetable was looking like. Because I mean, it would be 2022 before you get a Superman out. I'm cool with it. I don't got a problem with him playing Superman. I know that, of course, there was that controversy when he played Johnny Storm. Which I didn't really have a problem with, except for I will say this. I'm always for changing a character up, just as long as you're doing it for a good reason and you're not necessarily ticking off a box. And because when you're ticking off a box, you're not going to give that character the gravitas that it's due, and you're not going to make full use of the character. You're just basically ticking off a box. And the reason why I felt like in Fan4Stick that it was more ticking off a box than allowing Michael B. Jordan and his experiences to go into that character is, well, if you're going to make Johnny Storm, an African-American, why don't you make Sue Storm an African-American? It's like, it's not important that he's white, but it's somehow important that she is, and...
Well, I didn't see the movie. What were they, adopted siblings? What
yes,
was their...
she was adopted.
Okay.
She was adopted. And like I said, I mean, it's like, if you're going to go one, go the other. Because they have to go out of their way to make her white. They had to, for whatever reason. And I think it might have had something to do with, because, she eventually marries Reed Richards. And I'm like, so they have, yeah, exactly.
Again, so what?
Exactly. It's like, why, she can be black and he could be white and they can marry. There's no, they settled that out, they settled that issue back when I was a baby. Okay. I was, not even 1 year old when they said, hey, no, there's no problem with that. So I just didn't see a reason why we're just going to do this just to do it. And it's not really going to mean anything as far as the character is concerned. Like I said, I had no problem with Michael B. Jordan playing the role. I wanted it to be more than just we're ticking off a box. I wanted it to mean something.
Honestly, I mean, sitting here talking about that, I think that would be a fantastic dynamic to make the Invisible Woman a black woman, because in all honesty, black women have been just at the bottom of every rung, of being treated badly, being treated like property, being hired for jobs, being, receiving proper medical treatment, and this isn't, something 50 years ago. This is now, right now. So having Sue Storm be a black woman, I think would be a very interesting aspect to explore. I
Yeah,
would kind of like to see that.
I will say that, and this is sort of
if you're listening, Marvel.
yeah. Well, here's something, and I just saw this, and I wasn't necessarily going to bring this up, but I did see this in the on a news site that Elizabeth Banks is working on not the Invisible Woman Marvel, but the Invisible Woman. She's working on a movie with Warner Brothers, as in sort of well, I wouldn't necessarily say a gender-swapped Invisible Man story, because I don't know what's going on with it. But and they are coming out with an Invisible Man story, but apparently they're not going to be linked at all. This is going to be something completely different. So Elizabeth Banks is going to write it. She's going to direct it. And I think she's going to be in it. Okay. And so there's a good possibility. A lot of these, some of the things you were talking about, as far as that, being invisible as a metaphor, as being like a second-class citizen, those may be issues that she decides she wants to look at, in this movie. So I guess we'll find out for sure.
Who did the short story To See the Invisible Man? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was a punishment. They would put a mark on someone, and then everyone had to not pay attention to them, and no one sold them food, so they'd have to steal food. No one gave them medical treatment, so they had to suffer.
Yeah, I think you told me about this story at one time.
Yeah,
I don't think I've had a chance to read it.
I'll have to look that up.
Oh yeah, going back, it's like Warner Brothers is definitely trying to rebuild everything. I know there's been all this talk about, again, the Snyder cut keeps coming up. I don't think we're ever going to see it. I think Warner Brothers is not going to be willing to spend that kind of money to finish that film. So I don't think I think a lot of people are clamoring for it, but I would be very surprised to see Warner Brothers actually pull the trigger on it. But I guess we'll find out, if it ever happens. So there is one thing that I did want to get some opinions from you. Some things that I've seen, because we've been talking a lot of streaming service stuff. But one thing I haven't been talking about is DC Universe. And I probably because it's been out for a while. And there have been some things like Doom Patrol that I got to see one episode of, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And I've been thinking about this streaming service because they're coming out with a new animated Harley Quinn series.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, which, really wasn't that much on my radar. But then I saw a trailer for it, and there's like a lot of cussing in it.
Okay.
To see a plant drop an F-bomb was...
We're going Adult Swim with this.
Yeah, well,
okay.
I've heard some people describe it as, if you're a big fan of the Venture Brothers,
okay,
it has a lot of that kind of a vibe to it. And so I was, what I've seen of it so far, now I'm curious. Although I'm starting to wonder if maybe somebody at Warner Brothers isn't going to get fired because they're getting ready to put out a Harley Quinn movie. And if they put out an animated series that's actually better than the movie, that could be rough. But
that's not that different than Warner Brothers has pretty much, that DC has always kind of dealt with. Their animated series beat out their movies all the time.
Yeah, and their TV shows pretty much do the same thing. But like I said, it seems like it's really interesting. Like I said, I've seen the trailer for it. It's you've got you got Harley Quinn, you've got Poison Ivy, you've got different characters, and like I said, it has sort of that Deadpool feel to it. Okay. She's kind of the Deadpool of of this series, yeah. And when somebody says, "Oh, it very much reminds me of the Venture Brothers," okay, I'm in. I'm in. That's all you had to say. So I'm not exactly sure when it's going to be fully out. It's going to be one of those episodes. It's going to be something I think I'm going to have to get DC Universe for. I mean, just to follow up with, like I said, they had one free episode, the pilot episode for Doom Patrol, and watching that, I was just, this was like the return of Brendan Fraser, and I was like, he's really good in this. There's a lot of great stuff in there, and so I've been considering it for a while, but it kind of, like I said, everything else kind of, caught my attention, and I forgot about it. There was a lot of weird things that had been going on there. Like, they canceled their Swamp Thing and, before they'd ever showed the pilot. So I thought, well, this is, it's kind of weird stuff going on there. But like I said, I'm really tempted to pick it up after after seeing the trailer for it and everything I've been hearing about it. And of course, now that Rick and Morty has gone on vacation after 4 episodes, I think they're just taking like a week hiatus and then they're going to get back to it. And now you don't watch a lot of Rick and Morty.
No,
I'm going to have to get you involved in that because it's one of those cartoons that it's like there's a lot more going on than what's on the surface.
Okay.
And there are certain references there that I don't think everybody would get. I think you would definitely get. It's one of those things, you have to pay attention to because there'll be like Easter eggs and things that you'll have to go back and catch. There's these basically running narratives that appear every once in a while that seem like non sequiturs, but then you start putting the pieces together and you start realizing there's a story being told. One of these non sequiturs is Mr. Poopy Butthole. So his name is Mr. Poopy Butthole.
I think I've seen a stuffed toy of that at
Mr.
FYE.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and what exactly he is it's hard to tell. There's a lot of like fan theories about it, but this is definitely one of those series that I would love for you to catch, just so I could get your opinion on some of it, because like I said, it's different. It's definitely different. It's something that seems like it's very lowbrow but very intellectual at the same time.
Okay.
It's very much like Rene Descartes doing a fart joke. Pretty much. It's like I said, it's unless you've seen it, it's very difficult to describe, but it's one of those trips that I think you would enjoy making for sure. So let's talk a little bit of Walking Dead. We got our mid-season finale, episode 8, The World Before. Wow. So Sadiq really is dead.
Yeah.
He's not coming back, y'all.
Nope. He even went walker. We haven't seen that in a while. We haven't seen a main character get killed and walkerized. And I can't even remember the last time that happened.
Well, because Jesus, when they killed off Jesus,
it was immediate.
And they didn't let him turn. Dante wouldn't have let him turn, but he wound up getting distracted by Rosita, and then Rosita was she was BA as she always is,
yep.
But you could see that she's starting to crumble a little bit, and the whole thing with. Worried that, she's not going to be as effective now that she's scared to die because, her daughter, Coco needs her. But, oh man, Father Gabriel, where the hell did that come from?
That, I don't know. He kind of lost his zen. He went Morgan on it. You lose your zen and then you end up just going,
he's sitting there talking about he's doing all this about everybody deserves a second chance, and then it's not until he stabs Dante that you realize what I meant was my second chance to kill you, which I should have done the first time, but I didn't do it. That moment he's sitting there looking at the record. He's looking at the camcorder and just watching the interview that they had with Dante. And he's sitting here wondering, was like, what did I miss? What did I miss? I should have seen it. I should have known that he wasn't right,
Right.
And then we wind up in Riverside. Of course, Michonne is telling everybody, look, whoever
she's going back to the only us again.
Yeah, she's starting to. But here's the thing, though, that worries me. And I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the last time they were at Oceanside, and Judith found a mask
floating in the ocean. Yeah.
So does that mean there really is a spy at Riverside? I wonder.
Well, if they got one into Alexandria, why not?
Yeah. So the question is, who is that? Here's what sucks. The only person that I can think of that is rather new to them, and she's kind of flown under the radar, the music teacher's girlfriend. When I say girlfriend, the one that she has I'm trying to remember what her name is, but
that's how well she's flown under the radar.
Exactly. I think it starts with a C. It's not Cassie, but it's something like that. Yeah, the one that the music teacher is all has the crush on. She's the only one I can think of. She might be she might be a whisperer. So, I mean, that's the only person I can think of. I haven't had a chance to jump online and read any of the to read any of the fan theories out there. I'd have to guess somebody else has probably figured. They've come up with that as well, because it makes you have to wonder. Because like I said, when you saw the mask, I mean, where did it come from? So I just had the feeling that they're about to pull the trigger on somebody else. But man, now Michonne's gone. Yep,
she went off with Virgil, which is, of course, being the Dante geek that I am, immediately went, oh, he's leading her into hell. She has to go on her journey through hell to reach salvation. And
assuming that there is such a thing.
that's a little too literarily
on the nose, maybe.
Yeah, so I doubt it. But.
Well, the thing about it is she's going to this island. They say that it's a military base. There are weapons there. Nobody happened to mention how many people are there. I mean, they mentioned his wife,
family.
Oh, his family, but there could be dozens of people there. There could be 100 people there. Who knows how many people are there? So, but I guess that's going to be the question. Is, of course, she winds up leaving Judith and RJ behind.
Right.
And I'm like, really? Is that how did that? That's going to be, but that's going to be the question. How long is it going to take before we find out what happened to her, or do we ever find out what happened to her? Supposedly Judith's got the walkie-talkie, and they're going, calling every hour, etc. Don't just call me when you need something. Just call me, and talk to me. So, and Judith was, she was a little BA, wasn't she? She was, she's
Michonne's daughter.
Yeah, she's still a little ass kicker for sure. So, of course, we're still dealing with Carol's obsession with killing Alpha, and it got the gang in trouble for sure. A pit full of walkers. That's pretty horrible. Well, they were looking for the herd.
They found it.
And they found it. So I knew they were going to... that was the thing I was wondering, because you were getting toward the end of the episode, and there wasn't really any kind of...
teasing the horde. There's a horde somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, they only got a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes left. They need to set us up for some sort of cliffhanger. They're not just going to let us... They're going to set up something, and of course, the minute they go in the cave, I'm like, "Oh, that's where it is."
Yep, went Tom Sawyer on this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I saw that, and I'm like, "Oh, that's where it's going to fall apart." There it is, and of course, that's exactly where things went south. So, well, we got a few months. If they hold the same, it'll probably be I know they've wrapped the season, so.
Okay.
So mid January, early February, after the holidays, we will get our chance to see what's going on. We'll see how does the gang get out of this one, folks.
Right.
So
same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah, for sure. So before we finish up, of course, this is Thanksgiving week, and so what are you thankful for?
Geek wise?
Yeah.
Okay. I've really been. I think this season, I've really been thankful for HBO for taking a chance on, some literary classics that maybe didn't get the chance that they had with a film, and then took a chance and gave them their own series, and really brought out what was so great in their storytelling. So that was with Watchmen and his Dark Materials. So I think they've been given the treatment that they always deserved. And so I'm grateful for that, and just everything that's happening right now. Amazon doing the same thing with Good Omens, and I wasn't aware of it, but The Boys seems really good. So
Carnival Row, which I really I've enjoyed. So.
Yeah, just everything that they've these have been given new life. A new platform, a new media type that reaches a wider expanse, so I'm grateful for that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, certainly for me, what I'm really grateful for is certainly the geek world that we're living in right now, because of course I'm old school. I remember back in the 80s when geek stuff wasn't popular at all. And so you were either pretty much by yourself in your geekdom, or there was a small handful of hiding out in the library playing Dungeons and Dragons and hoping people didn't walk in on you because you'd catch hell for it for sure. And of course, we're living in a completely different world now for sure. I mean, these type of things are
where Dame Judi Dench is playing Dungeon Master,
for her grandchildren. Yes, because Vin Diesel taught her how to play.
Yes, that just warms my heart so much.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we're definitely living in a world that's more geek friendly for sure, and I'm grateful for that because that's allowed young people to explore fantasy and science fiction without a lot of the
ridicule,
without ridicule and a lot of the stigma that we older geeks had to put up with. I would definitely say what I'm also grateful for as far as this podcast is concerned is we are just a few episodes away from episode 100.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. And so
centenarians.
Yes. So, and I'm really grateful for all we've been able to put into this. And so, obviously, more than anything else, I'm really grateful for you, Mandy, because I can definitely tell, especially from starting out to you coming aboard, and, you've really helped me become a better podcaster. And I've definitely learned a lot having you here. And that's been really beneficial to me. And I feel like I definitely, I still have a ways to go, but definitely what I've learned from you and how you've helped me to develop this podcast has been a real joy to me. And I'm glad to have you aboard, and I'm really looking forward to 100, and that'll be sometime next year. But, thank you for everything you've done so far. And I'm really looking forward to when we get to episode 100 and to see how things change. There are some things that I think maybe in the next podcast we'll talk about, maybe a little bit of inside baseball as far as where we're looking to take the podcast going forward, some things that are changing, some things that are changing around us that we need to adapt to, but those will be some things to talk about later on. So, stay tuned, folks. We'll definitely bring that up here soon. So, and with that said, we come to the end of episode 91. Thank you for listening, and tune in next week for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.